I've been consumed with two passions in my life, cakes and cars. And finally, I found a way to combine the two. A road trip stateside.
This is really, really good, I have to say.
I'm on a journey to find the most incredible cakes that the US of A has to offer. Really, really good. So get ready for a sugar-coated, full-throttle journey around the United Cakes of America. Today, I'm in Washington, D.C. to learn the real history behind the all-American classic, the cupcake.
Back then in the 1800s, they didn't bake cupcakes in the paper wrappers that you traditionally see today. They really were in metal individual cups.
Then I'm heading to Maryland to find out about a cake so good, it's come to represent an entire state.
There's a little bit of butter in there. I'm sure you can taste just a little bit. It's
I can taste a lot of butter, never mind a little bit of butter. And I'll be showing you how to bake meringue frosted vanilla cupcakes and a delicious chocolate fudge and chestnut layer cake. About 70% dark chocolate. You get this lovely shine to it. Every road trip needs a classy motor. It's actually like driving your grandmother's sofa. Classic, baby. Classic. I just hope this piece of automobile history gets me all the way to my next stop, the capital of the USA, Washington, D.C. This is the home of some of the most iconic American landmarks, and everywhere you go you can feel the power of history and politics. What marks it out from the rest of America is that it's not even part of a state. It's a unique federal district, created just for the government to make its home in. There you go, the Washington Monument, look at that. Pretty sure all the flags represent all the different states. Apparently they're not allowed to build the buildings any higher than any of the government buildings, like the White House. So that's why everything isn't high. There's no skyscrapers in Washington. I don't know where I'm supposed to turn right. Am I turning right? Can I turn right? Oh, so, yes, you obviously can turn right. Getting to grips with American road law has made me work up an appetite. Definitely time for an afternoon treat. So I'm on the lookout for Washington, D.C.'s most famous bakery, which is in the trendy and historic neighborhood of Georgetown. That's where I'm headed, Georgetown Cupcakes. I'm about to meet Sophie Lamontagne, who gave up her career in finance to pursue her passion for baking, and along with her sister, opened the doors to their cupcakery in 2008. Sophie.
Hi.
Great to see you.
Welcome.
And a busy place.
Yes.
So tell us about Georgetown then, because it's kind of unique. We just came through Washington, and you come to this sort of unique area of Washington.
Yes, Georgetown is one of the most historic neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. It has a beautiful collection of very, old-fashioned shops, boutiques, restaurants, cafes. The perfect place to start a neighborhood bakery. Come on in.
I told you this was busy.
So we've got lots and lots of cupcakes.
Hold on a second, right.
Yeah.
This is the busiest bakery I think I've seen. How many staff have you got working here?
Oh, maybe like 50 or so now.
50?
Actually, it's not that busy. Right? If you think this is busy,
that busy
come on
right
a Saturday.
now.
Come on a Saturday. That's insane.
It's not that busy right now.
Yeah.
Just turn around and have a look at this. As soon as their doors opened 4 years ago, the girls became an overnight success. Queues of people appear around the block every day. They even star in their own TV reality show, which makes Sophie as sought after as her cupcakes. So how many cupcakes do you sell in this place a day then?
Over 10,000 a day. We bake literally all day long, and that's one thing that we do. We bake our cupcakes from scratch throughout the day. We don't just bake in the morning and stop. We literally, cupcakes are coming out of the oven every 15 minutes. So if you come in the evening, you're getting cupcakes that literally just came out.
How have yours, since 2008, turned into this?
Well, my sister and I, when we started this bakery, we said we really want to make the best cupcakes in the entire world. And so we used our grandmother's recipes and we used the best ingredients. We've got banana split, we've got vanilla, we have chocolate mint, we've got a blueberry cheesecake, we have chocolate, we have red velvet. I mean, we do 17 different flavors a day, and we mix and match the frosting. So there's probably
Wow,
about,
she's a walking, talking marketing machine. There are some serious flavours going on here. This was originally a cup of each ingredient. I presume it was cooked in a cup as well.
Yes, in a metal cup. And so back then in the 1800s, they didn't bake cupcakes in the paper wrappers that you traditionally see today. They really were in metal individual cups.
One theory is that baking in a small cup was a practical solution to the unreliable 18th century oven temperatures that tended to burn larger cakes. But the more popular one is that they were the first cakes to be made using cups to measure out the ingredients. The biggest cupcake chain in the States sold over 13 million of these babies last year alone, and the industry here is worth over $200 million a year. But before I can have a taste, Sophie wants me to try out my icing skills. Easy.
Hold it at the top, support the weight. Use your bottom hand to squeeze and guide. We're going to start in the center of a cupcake with the equal pressures, go around in a circle, and then end with a burst of pressure in the center.
Is this just for you, or is this every cupcake should be done like this?
Well, you know, this is our style. Cupcakes in different bakeries are frosted in different ways, but my sister and I have perfected this technique. Perfect. You are a pro. You nailed it on the first try.
Said while I've been here. I've got work to do. 5 down, only 9,995 to go. But when do I actually get to eat some?
This frosting's absolutely delicious. You have to try it. It's our chocolate buttercream frosting. We add a little Calibo chocolate to the mixture, and it's absolutely beautiful.
At last, time to tuck in. It's delicious.
Oh,
I was
thank
going to say
you.
cheers. That was good together. Cheers. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for visiting.
That's what America does best. They take a simple American classic like a cupcake, reinvent it with brilliant packaging and a great passion behind it, and you've got a superb business. And they taste brilliant. Now I'm going to cook my version of the all-American cupcake. Now, of course, cupcakes are quintessentially American, but in actual fact, I think the basis of it started off with a simple bun recipe. So I'm going to start off with a simple creamy method. Beat your butter, sugar and vanilla together for about 3 minutes. Now what you'll find in a lot of cupcake recipes is buttermilk, and I think that it's the real key to the flavour of a cupcake. So I'm adding 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. It's quite a sharp flavour and it goes really well when it's added to a cake. Next, you need to add 4 eggs, one at a time, and mix well until it's all combined. You just want to finish this by hand. And I'm going to add some self-raising flour. So mix it all together. And this is where you want to be just light with a touch. Quickly, but lightly. So once I've got to that stage, take your little tins. So use an ice cream scoop so you can get the nice measure. And you want these about 2/3 the way up. So these can go straight in the oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, that's about 170 degrees centigrade, for between 18 and 20 minutes. While they're baking, you can start to make your frosting. The frosting for this is actually quite simple. It uses an Italian meringue as a base. To do this, add some caster sugar and water into a hot pan and start whisking your egg whites. You need to heat the sugar until it starts bubbling. And before you get to a caramel, which is about 130 degrees centigrade, it gets to a temperature called soft ball. And it's then when you pour it onto the whipped egg whites, which cooks the egg whites, but also makes a lovely silky meringue while you're making it. But you need to be confident with it, but not throw it all in at once. Otherwise, you're going to end up cooking one part of the egg white. So slowly but quickly, like that. Whisk in all the sugar and keep mixing until the egg whites have cooled down. Your cakes should be ready now. Remove from the oven, and as they cool, they'll continue to cook in the tray. We just trim off the tops. And what this will give you is a nice surface for the topping. And it's all about the topping with cupcakes. To finish your frosting, add butter to the meringue mixture. What you'll find is when you add the butter, it collapses slightly. Don't worry about that. It's all about the texture and the flavour in the end. And you end up with this really light buttercream. Now, for me, the best food colouring is a paste. A lot of the food colourings that you buy nowadays, particularly the cheaper ones, are very liquid. Because of that, they're mainly chemical-based. So if you can get a paste one, you get a much better colour. Fill a piping bag, or you can use a large sandwich bag with a corner cut off and let your imagination run wild with the icing. And then a cupcake wouldn't be a cupcake without toppings. And this is really where you can go to town, and the reason why they're so popular is you've got all these fancy different coloured sugars. Cupcakes, easy as that. Cupcakes really are the easiest cakes that anybody can have a go at baking. And there's no denying that the Americans really have taken it to a different level. I've never seen a cake shop with a queue round the corner, all selling just one simple cake. But it tastes good. I'm heading north up to Maryland to tuck into a very special cake that has state approval. This is the life, the open road, the wind in my hair, cakes on my mind, from the comfort of my very own dream machine. I have to say, I'm actually starting to quite like this car. Yeah, there's a few things wrong with it. The seats have now stained my white trousers and now I've got a pink backside. But it is quite cool. So we're heading to Baltimore, which was one of the most strategic ports in the US, and it used to be the capital city of America. But it wasn't until the 1970s and the demise of shipping and the reduction in the steel industry which turned Baltimore into the boom and bust city of the state. And it really made its mark on history as the birthplace of the American national anthem. But it's Baltimore's waterfront position and surrounding islands that have always made it such an important city. And it's the fresh crab caught from around here that's used to produce their famous crab cakes. But I'm here for a different kind of cake. There's a little island called Smith Island, and it's there they've got a national treasure, and a treasure that's been named the State Cake of Maryland. And I want to know more about it. I'm about to meet another banker turned baker that gave up his career to put this iconic cake into the spotlight. So Brian, this has got to be the best view in Baltimore, hasn't it?
Welcome to Baltimore. It's pretty nice, isn't it?
It's pretty great, isn't it? So Smith Island to me, and when I think of Smith Island, I think of seafood, fishermen, oysters.
Sure.
So where does the cake fit in with all that?
The tradition was that the men would go out and oyster in the autumn for months at a time, and the women would bake the cakes for them and send them out with these cakes iced in fudge that would be very robust and they'd last a long time in the boats.
So it's layers?
Oh, it's layers.
Right.
It's 8 layers. What really sets it apart is this fudge that makes it the Smith Island cake. So what we do is...
So this is the traditional fudge that would have been
the fudge
on it
very
for 100
unchanged,
years, yeah.
unchanged.
Brian opened his bakery in 2009 on the remote 400-year-old fishing village of Smith Island in Chesapeake Bay. Its cake is the stuff of legend. Local residents claim that from the 1800s, when men went to sea for months at a time, the women sent them off with a delicious reminder of home. A cake made from 8 individual baked sponge layers separated by a cooked, rich chocolate icing. However this delicious cake was developed, this tiny community passed the recipe down through the generations, and the Smith Island cake became a proud part of its heritage. So how does a simple cake from a tiny island become the state dessert?
Well, it's not a simple cake. It's a wonderful cake, but...
But how does it happen?
The way it became the state dessert was a woman named Mary Ada Marshall, who's kind of one of the patron saints of Smith Island. And she said, you know what, we should get some acclaim for this cake. So she went to the State House and says, we have state symbols, we have a flag, a state song, this should be our state dessert. And you don't want to disagree with Marietta Marshall, so guess what? It's the state dessert.
So that's it.
Here we are.
Right, well, I can't wait to try this.
I can't wait to have you try it, Chef.
Go on then. Look at that. That's taken some work, hasn't it, that? So do you bake the cake whole and then slice it, or is
No, we bake the layers individually.
each layer individually? Got to try it then, haven't I, really?
There's a little bit of butter in there. I'm sure you can taste just a little bit. It's a very.
I can taste a lot of butter, never mind a little bit of butter. There's a lot of butter. You Americans know how to make a good cake.
Means a lot. Chef came all the way here just for this cake.
It's a good cake.
Thank you.
Now, the idea of a layered cake isn't new. It can be found right across America. One of the dishes that I'd used for inspiration from this, particularly with the layers, is a dish that I learnt from Paris. And it's a twist on a classic French dessert called a Gata Oera. Now, the basis of this cake is quite unusual. You actually start off with a meringue base. So we need 8 egg whites. And it's this that gives the cake unique lightness. A touch of cream of tartar. This will stabilise the meringue a little bit, and then whisk this up. Now, there's one thing you need to make sure of when you're making meringue is the bowl is free of grease. Anything like the bowl is not absolutely spotlessly clean, then it affects the whole quality of the meringue. Dissolves the whites and breaks down the whites and causes it to collapse. Now, at this point, just as the whites start to firm up, we can add some of our sugar. When your egg whites are whipped, leave them to one side. In a separate bowl, start your sponge by creaming the butter and sugar. A good pinch of salt. But the key to this, because you've got the layers in there, is to keep it nice and light. And if you make a sponge like this, it really does keep it light. Now, there are quite a lot of eggs that are going to go in here. We need 8 medium-sized eggs, just added one at a time to the butter and the sugar. And then we've got this quite loose batter. But then if we add our almonds, and then plain flour, the only rising agent that we've got in here is the meringue. So this is where you need to be really careful with this. We then fold this in. Then you can incorporate the meringue. It's quite an unusual way of making a cake, but you do get a really light texture to it. Now, traditionally, this would be then baked on flat sheets, but I'm actually baking it into a whole tin. So this is about an 8-inch cake tin. We fill it up with the batter. The oven's set about 360 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 180 degrees centigrade, gas mark 4, and cook this now for about 45 minutes. And while that's cooking, we can make our filling. So it's whipped cream and it's chestnut puree. And the thing is with chestnut purees, when you're buying this, make sure you buy the sweet one, because they have 2 on the supermarket shelves at the same time. The sweet and the unsweetened. The sweet goes in here. We just carefully fold it in to whipped cream. That can go in the fridge just to set until our cake's ready. And this is the finished cake. It's nice and light, but what it will do is enable you to slice it nice and thin. And it's these layers that we want. Because of the meringue in there, you've got a weird, unique texture to it. It enables you to bend it and handle it a lot easier than a traditional cake. Now, traditionally in France, this would be coated in like a coffee syrup. But I'm going to use rum. A good measure of rum, but not on its own. You mix rum and stock syrup together. Stock syrup is a mixture of sugar and water. And in this cake, it keeps each layer moist and helps bind it together. Spread your chilled cream filling over each individual layer. The secret of this is to get the filling nice and thin. The temptation is to get it a bit too thick. And then your cake ends up being about 1 foot tall. Finally, you've got the top. And now on to the best bit, the chocolate fudge topping, where you add water and sugar into a pan. Now I always use sort of icing sugar for this, but you could of course use caster sugar. Add chocolate and cocoa powder and stir continuously on a low heat. This is where you don't want to use too bitter chocolate, about 70% dark chocolate, but you get this lovely shine to it. And to top it all off, decorate your cake with some crumbled candied chestnuts. But there we have it, a simple chocolate and chestnut fudge cake. This cake is worth the effort and perseverance because although it looks like one solid bit of cake, it's the layers that make this so special. So persevere with it. It is really worth it because the taste is fantastic. I've been treated to some delicious cakes today. I met two people who gave up their careers in finance to follow their cake dreams. And I've seen just what passion for baking over here really means. It just goes to prove that in America, cakes means big business.